Okay, it is 5 minutes of 7. It was posted as immediately following DPW, or 6:30, so we can start now. This is GenGov for November 30th. The call to order is I'm here, Councilor Rivas is here, and Ms. Clemens is here. Jackie is out, and Martina has said she's sick, so she's not here. Item number 3 is consider and accept GenGov minutes of November 1st. Did you get them when I emailed them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have not read them. They just came in today.
I know, I sent them this
I
morning.
just
Or noonish.
it wasn't on my schedule.
I finally got around to doing it. Did you have a chance to read them? Okay.
Sorry.
So would you
I would
rather
have read
postpone them, or?
I would prefer to postpone unless you want us to look through
Fine,
them,
me
because you
either
said they were short. I didn't even look.
They're only one page, yeah.
Yeah, they're very short.
It's up to you.
It's up to
A
you.
lot of people.
Okay, yeah, we can postpone.
If at the end, how about we postpone to the end and make a decision then?
That's fine.
That way
That's fine.
we've got a few minutes.
That's fine, okay. Item number 4 is discuss the nomination of Marcelino Guerra to the RTA Advisory Board. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the members of the council, everyone in the audience. This evening, I have Marcelino Manny Guerra.
Yes, sir.
I spoke to him the other week. If you may recall, the end of October, we received a letter, or I did anyways, from the WRTA looking for someone to fill the vacancy for the disabled rider membership. And so I mentioned it during one of the recent council meetings, and Mr. Guerra contacted my office and filled out a notice of interest. I did call him and speak to him, and he indicated to me as somebody, a disabled member of the community, he wanted to represent the town of Southbridge and the entire disabled community in the greater WRTA ridership area. So I spoke to the folks, Elizabeth Paulke at the WRTA, and she had suggested we send a letter in. And so I'm just asking for an endorsement of my recommendation from Mr. Guerra, and he came this evening just to introduce himself, in case anybody had any questions.
Thank you for coming.
There's no guarantee that we'll get it, but
Okay.
my understanding in speaking with the WRTA is even they look at everybody's letter, and then they also look at whether a town has had someone from their community represent in that position before, which I'm not aware that we have recently, because this position was vacant about a year ago. If he wasn't selected this time, he would be placed essentially on a wait list or as an alternate in a sense. So I still think we should send a letter in, make sure that we are represented and that he can be representing the community, disabled riders on top of that.
Okay.
That was awesome.
Oh, do it.
Well, thank you for having me. I'll just take a couple minutes.
Okay.
You can call me Manny. I'm more comfortable with that. Gosh, I so apologize for that 5-page resume that I sent. I swear I'm working on shortening that as we speak. I didn't have much time to get it in, so I just kind of wanted you all to just kind of get a quick picture of my background before my accident. And so I'm newly disabled, and I just started getting involved in things this past summer. But I have over 25 years of experience in community activism, from working with young people to older people to much wiser people. And now I'm learning that this community of people with disabilities is very much underrepresented. There's not a voice for them. I won't be on this committee to look pretty, or I'm not into politics. I'm into what's right for everyone, not just us, but everyone. I'm always into educating people, so my thing is teaching people how to work with someone with disabilities, how to ask questions, how to help them, just simple things, how to even say hello. Sometimes it's hard to even look at somebody in a wheelchair. And I explain to wheelchair users that it's all right for us to say hello sometimes too. You don't have to be bitter. So I just want you to know you're getting a good all-around guy. I'm the co-founder of the Worcester Youth Center, and that's kind of where my legacy started. I've been assistant director and director of many different types of residential homes,
Mhm.
facilities. I mean, it's all in there. What I want to do now, I serve on the board of directors for the Center for Living and Working. It's an independent living center, and they advocate for people such as myself and older, retired individuals, for independent living on their own. So, to the best of their ability. So not everyone is living independently, but we try to encourage and try to motivate everyone, to do what they can to the best of their ability. My thing is, I advocate for myself, and I want to teach people to do that for themselves to the best of their abilities. So if they can write good, then do that. If you talk well, do that. If you text good, do that. If you think good, then do that. Whatever you're good at. If I get on this advisory board, 1 year ago, I started using WRTA paratransit. I just had like a few things interactions that I thought could have been handled better. Lack of information being disseminated. Like I didn't know I was supposed to call Elder Bus to schedule transportation with the WRTA. I don't understand the system, and I still haven't been explained it. And why. I think it's important for us to know why we have to do these things. Those are the type of questions I even ask. I've been in Southbridge for 3 years. Everyone keeps telling me to get involved in this town. I have a personal connection with RMG, Renaissance Medical. Renaissance Medical Group. Because I know there's our Alliant Medical Group.
Right.
And I know, I don't know if you know Sarai Rivera,
Yes.
but she's my mom's pastor, and we're very good friends of the family. So I aim to do a lot of work out of there as well. Sorry, I said 2 minutes.
That's okay. Well, thank you very much
Thank you for
for
having me.
coming forward. And
Could, I don't want to surprise Mr. Guerra, because I'm not sure if we had this conversation or not, but I believe we have an additional vacancy on the Commission on
I was
Disabilities.
just going to say,
I was
And
thinking
we
the
just
same
had some
thing.
recent interest. We put, Anita Tarantino on there, and she's trying to get some meetings going. I didn't put this on the agenda, but he's introduced himself. I think I would like to have a further conversation with Mr. Guerra to see if he would like to get involved with our local Commission on Disabilities, and just ask you to keep this in mind as almost his appearance in an interview before one of the committees, so that if I bring him forward for that position, maybe I don't have to have him come into another subcommittee, but
Sure.
we can bring him to council because you've heard from him and seen from him. But I can have a follow-up call, we can talk about
I'll
it.
tell you right now, yes.
Okay.
Maybe I should add an agenda item.
I was thinking of the same thing actually while he was talking, because you're very well spoken, and we need more people like that to get involved. Absolutely.
I'm a father. This is my son,
Oh, hello.
Carlos. He's 14 years old. He lives with me. I'm a single dad, and I've raised 3 others between the ages of 24 and 29, and I have 3 grandchildren. So this is what I do now.
And I see you as you know, you mentioned, and you worked in group homes and stuff like that. And
Yes.
I know what that's like. I've done that too. So
Thank
that's
you.
raising all kinds of other people's kids.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Thank you.
I know what that's
very
like.
much.
Thank you very much for coming
You're
forward.
welcome.
Any comments or questions?
I don't know if it's if we could add the agenda item, if we could make a motion to add an agenda item that pending all the paperwork
I have no problem with that. honestly.
to give a recommendation up to council to accept into the Americans with Disability
Commission
Community
on Disabilities.
Commission on Disability here. Yes,
Yes.
right.
Right.
In Southbridge
What would-
it's a 3-year term, I believe, right?
Is it a full 3-year term? Would he be
There is
filling a
one.
vacancy?
I will research it tomorrow, but what I can also do is take his application that he's provided me
Okay.
and white it out, because it's basically the same set of qualifications.
Right.
So I don't know if we want to amend his thing to add that in addition, or to just add it as 4A or something. But whatever works.
If you want to move to amend it, then fine. Sure.
Okay.
That's awesome.
All
Thank
right. So I move to amend it to include the recommendation from the Council of Disabilities, the Commission of Disabilities.
Okay. So formality, all in favor of
Yeah,
making the
just-
amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any questions or comments on the, Scott?
You can't amend it and add the appointment.
All right, I'll do a second. I'll just add an agenda.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll do the first way. Okay.
Vote
That's fine.
one and then vote the other.
Let's
in
finish
between.
this one and then I'll make the
Okay, that's
motion
fine.
to
That's
add
fine.
the agenda.
Okay, any further questions on this nomination, the RTA nomination?
I just want to make a comment.
Good.
It's an honor meeting you. I've heard of you, and I'm very familiar with your work at the Worcester Youth Center.
Wow. Thank you.
And it is a pleasure to have you involved in this way in our community.
Thank you.
I had no idea that you had moved to Southbridge, and I welcome the work that you'll be doing, and I'd love to get more information and have you get involved in other ways in our community, because I do a lot of other projects in
Do
the
you
community.
have your name? I'm sorry.
Jasmine Rivas.
I know you. Okay. All right. I'll start to look out for you. Nice. Definitely, Josh. Give me all the answer.
Awesome.
Anybody else have comments or questions? All those in favor? Okay.
So now I would make a motion to add agenda item 4A,
Okay.
in which we would ask to include a nomination for Mr. Marcelino Gurro to the Commission of Disabilities, the Southbridge Commission of Disabilities, here for whatever term is open, whatever seat is
Mhm.
open. I would recommend that council would approve that appointment for whatever term is open.
Second.
Whatever term is.
It's to be determined by the town manager.
Okay, that's fine.
My office will find out and
Yeah.
put the appropriate wording on the agenda.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
it's just it's a formality to
Mhm.
move it
All in favor
forward.
of adding? Okay. Any specific questions or comments on this issue?
I would just like to say that I think that position would be really regardless of what happens with the WRTA,
Yep.
in looking at your resume in regard to your skill set in terms of building and such, that would be a great area, because you might be a wonderful resource locally for people who are looking to comply and maybe just don't have that wisdom as to how they could comply. So
Right.
you could direct them in the manner of, how something could be built, or how it maybe wouldn't seem as difficult or as costly as they might think to comply with what needs to be done locally. 'Cause
Conversation.
that's a hard time for a lot of small businesses and just people in general to understand what could be done. So,
I'm learning a lot. I'm sorry.
oh, that's fine.
I'm learning a lot. Like I said, just over the last few months, I've been involved in, some fights over at City Hall in Worcester, and I'm getting some information, from them that I think we can apply here in Southbridge, and it would be useful in those times. And yeah, please, just call me,
Yeah.
and I'm game for it. But that conversation should be had before development starts.
Mhm.
That way, everyone's on the same page, and I have professionals that actually do what you just said
Right.
through the Center for Living and Working.
Right. So some people just don't understand which direction, and knowing that the Commission on Disabilities here would have a resource in a member.
Right.
Because sometimes people, they really mean well, they want to be on a committee, but they don't necessarily have certain skills that maybe that committee could need, but they're goodness of their heart, they serve, and we need them. We need all kinds of volunteers. But it's really great when you have somebody who's perfectly fit for that.
Oh.
And so it seems like
Thank
your background is that. So
I appreciate
I
it.
hope that the council sees the same.
I plan to learn a lot, as much as I can from all of you, everyone in the room. I mean, it's an honor, honestly. It's an honor. When you do a lot of work, sometimes you don't know the amount of effort you put into it, and it just feels good to
Mhm.
people give you compliments. It's tough sometimes to take,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
One day at a time. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Okay, item number 5, review and discuss transfer of $25,000 from salaries to specialized services to cover the treasurer collector services for the months of November and December. Mr. Manager? Or
I'm
whomever?
sure Ms. Harness could comment on this as well, but as you know, we are utilizing the services of an interim treasurer. We retain her services through a specialized staffing facility, and her current term goes through now through the end of December. I'm trying to convince her to stay on a little bit longer, as we've been interviewing candidates, but we haven't found one that would be a good fit yet.
Okay. Well, what do you think your prospects of being able to fill the job permanently by the end of the year are?
It's tough to say. The treasurer candidates have been, there's been a fair amount of openings. We've had some decent candidates, and we've had some come back scheduled for second interviews and have canceled, not giving us reasons, but I suspect they may have taken positions in other communities. And we've had some people that come from long distances who don't really understand Massachusetts general law. So we're trying to find somebody who can hit the ground running, because we are in a situation where this person's only working 25 hours a week, and they're just catching up on a lot of backlog. And as I mentioned at council, we've uncovered some issues with this person here. So we want to get somebody who knows the position and has the experience. So we do get a lot of people right now that will send in resumes who have little or no experience, which really makes it challenging. So we've been holding out to try and get somebody who really knows what they're doing, because some of the candidates we've looked at, we know have tried this, let's say, and not worked out in other communities. So we don't want to. We don't want somebody who's just going to come in and then leave 3 or 6 months on the job.
Continue, but I must. Yeah. So, any comments or questions? Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. This seems like an awful lot of money to keep paying for a temporary treasurer. I know that you're having problems finding people to work the job, but it sounds to me like you do have a lot of resumes in, and so it would be my suggestion that we try a little harder to find somebody to fill the position, because at this cost here, if you did this for a year, you're talking about $150,000 a year for a treasurer. Seems like an awful lot. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Councilor Marquetti, but right now I think we need the help. I mean, by the time to find somebody full-time and, get straight salary or whatever, you get paid. But meantime, I think we need the help to catch up. So I don't think you have another choice right now. I don't know.
Yeah, legally.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Mr. Manager?
Without saying too much, because I have HR and Ms. Harnoway's here, we did have somebody who we thought actually fit the bill 2 months ago, and that person understood what the market was for treasurer collectors, and asked when we made offers, countered with something that there was just no way that this town could afford. And had we entertained that, we would have had serious wage compression issues along all the department headlines. And it's become very challenging to work within our means and still get somebody there. But we think we've encountered a few that could. And we have a few more people coming in.
Okay. Okay, Denise, then Scott. Denise?
Thank you. Well, I agree with Councilor Marquetti that costs are high, no doubt. The last thing we want to do is, as I say, hire somebody, go through all that you do when you hire somebody, all the costs involved and the time, and then have to, again, go back to the search board, go back out there and look again. I mean, that keeps happening in the last few years here. It's constant turnover. You really, sometimes this just might be the investment made in this next year, which might turn out to be way more than we want to pay. But we might need that time to find the right person with the right skill set and the right dedication and attitude for staying here. So, and you still might not, unfortunately. Right now, it's really weird out there. They lay off you're just hearing the sectors that are reducing jobs, and yet you can't find people for other jobs. So it's just, and then there's the people who just aren't working. They just still choose not to. So it's a really strange world out there right now. But I do hope we find somebody soon for the taxpayers' benefit.
Well, we need it legally for a whole slew of reasons.
For all slew of reasons,
Absolutely.
yes.
Scott?
I agree with the 3 previous speakers, but in knowing the person that we have as an interim, she's very qualified and knowledgeable, and as an interim, we might be paying a premium because we're not finding anybody, but she is doing the job and she does a nice job at it. If I could speak on her behalf, bang for the buck. You know, she's in a position where she's doing interims like this.
Mhm.
It's going great, so to speak, because of the economy.
Right.
And as Member Clement said, you know, it's kind of crazy out there right now, but we gotta hang in there, steady she goes, continue. You don't want a vacancy in the office. Right
Right.
now, some of our sub-staff underneath are doing a lot of extras and a lot of things that they probably wouldn't normally do to maintain the office, which was used to being staffed heavily. So
Right.
I think moving forward, I think what we have to do is steady she goes, stay the course, get aggressive on searches and continue to beat the bushes for the right candidate. In some cases, you're gonna end up with probably not the most experienced candidate, but as we have to look at the candidate and say, I remember hiring John LaFleche right out of college. And everybody said, oh, wow, no experience. Ended up being one of the best finance directors, superintendent of schools. His career ladder was amazing. They begged him to be the town manager, but he moved on as a superintendent. So bottom line comes down to is, you have to feel good about the one that we grab up and invest in. If they don't have all the experience, are willing to, you know, stay the term and
Mhm.
hang in there with us, then be worth doing some training. Thank you.
Mike, you had your hand up?
No, I'm all set.
Mr. Manager?
And for the record, our interim, Ms. Seviak, who's, as Council Lazo said, she's worked in the area, many towns around here. She is part of our review panel when we're interviewing these candidates.
Okay.
So she's bringing her expertise as we're looking. So as we've had some of these candidates, she's weighed on whether or not they would be a good fit or not. So it's not just, you know, me.
Right,
You know,
sure.
because I don't know all that much about treasure. So we get the added benefit of her assistance when we're doing the recruitment.
Great, excellent, excellent. Did you have something you were to say, sir?
I did, I didn't know if I could speak on it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Let's spell that.
I just want to ask if, what the package that might entail. More specifically, is there any remote work where they might be able to hybrid?
So that's one of the big challenges, if I may, Mr. Chairman. You know, trying to compete with the private sector. There's, I think, an expectation of most taxpayers that when they come to town hall, they're going to find people. So it becomes very hard to do remote work from town hall. We can occasionally accommodate people if, you know, they have someone sick, or during COVID, we experimented with some hybrid work situations. What people are realizing though now is they can ask for a higher salary. Some are asking for additional benefits. Some people want, you know, accommodations for a car. They want additional deferred comp. These are not out of the realm of what some people have asked about, these types of things. So, and that's not common for that type of position, but realizing that they could go to one town versus another, they'll ask for it.
Right.
So that's what I mean by a package. They ask for it. It's not just straight salary anymore, or, you know, they'll want additional vacation or different things. So,
Okay. Jasmine?
While I don't disagree that it is, you know, it is costly, I do agree with the previous speakers. I think that it's a really important position in our community, and I think that having the town manager, HR, and the interim person on this sort of committee, looking at candidates and making sure that we get the best person, I think we shouldn't rush into just any person to be in this position, and I do think that you know, we have to sort of bite the bullet at this point because of the climate we're in. So.
I would just add, Ms. Harnley does participate in this as
I'm
well,
sorry.
because she interacts almost exclusively with the treasurer
Right,
on a regular
right.
basis.
And Nora does
Okay.
as well, if I may.
Okay.
So-
Karen, go ahead.
If I could, I would just like to comment, I feel that the town and myself, we're really lucky to have Joanne right now, because she's come in and she has a lot of knowledge, and there's a lot of catch-up work that needed to be done in the office, and then between our two offices as well, and she's really doing a great job. You know, I know that the rate is a little high, but, you know, I think that we're lucky to find her, is all I have to say now. what I just wanna say. She's really good to work with.
Okay, good, excellent. Mike?
I did have one more question. This is coming out of a salaried account, so I'm going to presume that this is a salaried position. You're taking the money from what you would have paid a full-time treasurer. Are you going to run out of funds from this account if you continue with this interim treasurer? Because her position is budgeted, and you're taking, I'm going to presume you're taking the money from that budgeted position, correct?
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So the treasurer collector's position was budgeted, I would say like $95,000 to $100,000 for the year. None of the salary was used because the prior person left at the end of June. We've been using the specialized services account in the treasurer's. That's generally for like tax title services, but we also have a tax title revolving that we've been using for some of those services. So at this point, we haven't moved any of the money from salary, haven't used any. This is the first that we're going into it right now.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? What? Oh. Okay, did we actually make a motion? That's a good
That's
one.
what I was just saying.
I
I
don't
think
know
it
if
was
we
a
actually did.
motion. I'll make a motion to
Okay.
recommend the transfer of $25,000
Thank you.
from SEP to, basically
Right,
the interim
okay.
treasurer collector
Sorry about
services.
that.
Second.
Well, we've had the discussion.
Great.
Any further questions, comments? No, all those in favor? Okay. Okay, item number 6 is review and discuss transfer of $15,000 from cable special revenue fund to cable personnel services to fund cable projected salaries through June 30th of '23.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. This time we have a motion. Is Jim here? Huh?
I think Lynn's
Okay.
So
Mr.
Ms.
Manager?
Lengel's here. She's
Okay.
essentially the
Here,
she's
okay.
the administrative assistant,
Right.
but she doesn't hold the books up there.
Okay.
So my understanding is here, we have Jim, as you know, Cosgrove,
Mhm.
he and Charlie Diaz are full-timers. We have a part-timer. We have Ms. Lengel. We had to move some of the salaries around to make Charlie Diaz a full-timer, and this will cover us in the interim, as I understand it. And we're anticipating some personnel changes in the first quarter of next year, so that we will not have the salary issues going forward.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No,
Hmm?
so that covers it.
Okay. No, work. Okay. Anybody else have questions or comments? Mike, go ahead.
Thank you. Can the town manager just explain what he just said about making changes, or is that something that you don't want to talk about? You said you were going to be making some changes in the office.
So, we're gonna, I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, if I may. We are gonna experience some personnel changes the second month of next year, and we should be able to cover the salary. However, the person doesn't wanna make it public yet, who will be leaving the department, so we're not at, we can't disclose that information right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Hush, secrecy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Anybody else have a question or comment? Okay. All those in favor?
You know, I'm gonna abstain from the actual vote. I'm just
This
thinking
is a
about
good-
that.
that's a good
I'm
point,
sort of on a
actually.
committee that sort of exists of one, which we could use about 4 or 5 more that would be
Yeah, you
completely
could.
legal,
This is
but
true.
just in case, yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
Even though I made the motion, it doesn't matter, I didn't take the vote, just in case.
Okay, that's fine.
But it doesn't matter.
That does make sense.
Still doing
Okay.
it. Yes.
Okay, let me see here. Item number 7 is review and discuss. Oh, do you need any help getting out? Item number 7 is review and discuss transfer of $2,000 from assessor's revaluation to specialized services to cover the cost of mapping changes and updates.
So moved.
Second?
There's a little bit of things going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just reading through it again.
Okay. Mr. Manager? Or whoever?
We have our assessor Rachel Carden.
Okay.
She can-
Rachel?
Yeah, this is the final stage of getting our mapping, GIS mapping system, which is on the town's website, fully 100% up to date. Due to COVID, things have fell far behind, and we were, so I've been, since, over the last year, getting it all up to date. So our zoning is currently out of date because there was zoning changes recently, and our overlays are not reflected. The AO overlay,
Okay.
and there's another one, I forget what it is, I got this from Eric. So this could come at a cost to get those final changes made, and will be 100% accurate.
Okay. Okay. So then it will include the thing that we voted over on, over off of Woodstock Road and stuff like that, those changes that we did down there, right? It was, we changed some zoning down there
Yes,
for
all of
residential
that
and some of the
stuff.
business zones down
Yeah.
there and a few other
So
things.
all
like
the
that.
zoning changes that happened and the overlays that were created
Okay.
are currently not reflected on our house, so
Right.
just we'll get them on there.
Okay. Denise?
So, with the issues that have been going on with that whole new zoning situation, that 96 pages, if you do all these changes and finalize this now, and things change again, zoning somehow changes, because I know the planning board is working on things, and
That is true.
will that make a difference? I mean,
I can wait if I can talk to Eric, if there's changes coming pretty quick. We can hold off on making that change, and the cost is gonna remain the same if I hold off a little bit, if I know, I wasn't aware. Eric didn't mention it when he sent me the files.
well, I don't want to speak out of turn. I just know that they're working on a number
That's
of
true.
issues that exist within those pages that they didn't even realize existed until, things have just come.
Come to life.
So much mess, right. At least that's exactly how they described it at the meeting I was at. And I wonder if that would change anything in terms of the mapping. I don't know.
Because I have right now.
I mean, I realize the overlay is a whole different, but then again, maybe some of what they've done.
But yes, every time I make a change to the mapping, above and beyond our normal changes. So what we do normally is like any lot split, so someone divides a parcel of property. Those kind of changes have been maintained.
Okay, that's important, yeah.
That,
For
right, so
tax
that's all
purposes.
there, but it's more the overlays, so like when there's changes to the water and sewer overlays, which are not public, but we do have private access for the staff. Any kind of change like that, it does cost money. I can, and I had talked to the mapping company, I'm actually looking at other mapping companies down the road, but even with this one, they're all have fees.
Right.
Right.
And to me, I have to make a change. But looking forward, I was considering budgeting for more, so that I could make those changes, and kind of keep like a small bank for when those kind of other changes
Oh,
above
okay.
and beyond my normal changes occur,
That makes sense.
that we can make those, and if I don't need it, it just goes back.
Well, hopefully, I would just follow up with, hopefully, we're not willy-nilly and change, we made a change, now it's 6 months, we need another change. I think we need to be able to project
The
what we're
problem
doing.
that I'm running into, the building department is running into, they rely heavily on my maps.
Right,
And now
right.
they cannot rely on them.
Okay.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, so that's what really prompted me to try and do this.
Okay.
Yeah, and get it up to speed. My assessor's CAMA system does not have zoning in it, so that's a whole nother project, but that we'll do in-house to get that updated. So I don't even have like an alternative to pull up form and say, oh, it's R2 or whatever. So this would really help the building department tremendously to have this up to date.
Rachel, is this, so you're just talking about the zoning map itself as opposed to the assessor's site where the various individual properties come up and.
Yeah, this would be the site on the website.
Yes, okay.
So not my internal database that
Yeah.
we use in-house.
Okay.
This is gonna be on the maps themselves.
Okay, because I've noticed that on the assessing map page that the public has access to, you look at some of the properties and you only way you can get a real comparison of how big they are is to look at the numbers. Because if you look at the properties, I've seen like one of my neighbor's properties is 6 acres, I think it is. And it looks like it's the same as the other neighbor's property, which was like 30.
Well, mapping unfortunately is never 100% assessor's
Yeah.
maps to scale.
Yeah,
When you, and especially in this part of New England,
right.
because there's so many old, like the original maps with the rods and the links,
Yeah,
we do find sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's an error, sometimes it's just that's where it ended up with the other ones. I've had parcels in communities I've worked in where I had a sliver along the border of 2 towns, our town and the neighboring town, that belonged to nobody.
uh-huh,
And it was all in mapping because of the curvatures and,
yeah,
so that's just, you know, if they're not surveyed.
okay, I was just curious.
Go by the data, not the picture.
Right, that's what I figured.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
so.
Denise?
Final question, so have, Eric knows you're working on this or trying to get this done, right?
Yep.
But, so either you've not asked him or he's not alluded to
He just
saying
gave me
there's
the-
anything coming up in the near future that should delay this at all?
Yeah, when he gave me the files, he didn't mention
Okay.
anything being worked on.
Just-
But I can talk to him and see if it's
Well, no,
close.
Well, I know the planning board's agenda repeatedly talks about doing little workshops on various zoning issues. I don't know how much of them are just internal zoning, like legalese changes versus zoning map changes.
But if we vote this money regardless, it doesn't matter, and you wait a couple weeks or a month, you know, because he says, hey, let's just, there's something coming up in the next month, that's not gonna change.
It won't change the
Right,
amount.
okay, so you just need the money approved so that you can get it done. Okay,
Okay,
in the end, that's fine.
Jasmine?
So if the money isn't approved, what are the ramifications for the building inspector?
Just assume of the zoning being correct on the maps and no overlays reflected.
Mhm.
How
I
do-
mean, I don't use them, it's the building department, so it's, it's an impact on them, not me, because they do rely on
Right.
those maps.
Right. Scott?
Good question. What's the impact? Building? If I go in to pull a permit and I want to do a project and the maps are incorrect and I build something, such as we have projects in town that they built buildings, if they were mapped or followed the map. That's why mapping is so important.
Right.
One of the great historical things in Southbridge, they called it Dick Tracy's Nose.
Mm-hmm.
There was a piece of a parcel that we were sending tax bills, but they said it was in Charlton. They had an elected assessor that lived in that neighborhood. And then finally, we had to go back, to the beginning of time to figure out what was going on. Southbridge owned the nose. And the big land swap was with the landfill, you got 68 acres of Southbridge land that was in Charlton, to map it to Southbridge and to give the nose to Charlton.
Yeah.
But the mapping is the point that she's talking about. All the building permits, whether you can pull one, do you have the frontage, do you have the side setbacks, is all done through the mapping.
Right.
So it kind of controls all development.
Right.
No, the building
Right.
department relies on it, and the police, the fire, there's
Right.
just very important database.
Especially some of the changes, with some of these smaller changes that we've made over the years. And, you know, if you tell me you just bought the property, you may think it's residential, but it's not. Or
That's
some,
what
or
I'm saying.
vice
That's why I
versa.
just want to make sure before
Yes.
you actually do it, that there's anything pending, you know, that's all. But
Sure.
you need
Of
the
course,
money.
of course, the catch-22 is that even if it is pending, it does affect people that are currently in the middle of these situations now. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
that's how do we balance it
The
off?
expense to make a small update may be a lot less than 2,000.
Oh, sure,
I'm doing
sure.
the entire town right now
Mhm.
with
Yep.
2 or 3 overlays.
Right,
So yeah, so if there's a small minor change, it may not be the full,
right.
2,000. And it's my future budget for that little cushion for little
Right.
things like that, I may need to never come back here and ask you.
Sure. Julie?
So one of the big mistakes that Scott, Mike, a couple of people might remember here, when I was working in the inspections office, the trade hand building.
Yep.
That was a big problem. That
It's
ended
still a
up,
dilemma.
yeah, that ended up in a lawsuit with the town. Unfortunately, the building is still empty, and there's nothing we can do with it. Well, I think Scott bought it. So
Well, there's a court order to rip the building down.
Yep,
And the thing is, Scott is a business, a viable
Right.
business, wants to buy it for the property. But the thing is, there is on the deeds,
Zoning
a
problem.
zoning problem where the building was ordered by the court to be taken down. For some reason, it used to be a lumber yard, and they built that to store lumber, and it was built in the wrong way, and, you know, big problems, but the town manager's dealing with it today. We had another one up on Gulfwood. They put in duplex house, not zoned for duplex. Permits were given, things were happening, and I don't know if it was a mapping thing, but it's amazing. You never hear about mapping. But if you understand how important the mapping is,
Yes.
it circumvents a lot of headaches and problems and legal battles in the future for the town of Southbridge.
That's a huge part of my job, is maintaining that database.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? Okay, let's see, where are we here? And item number 8 is discuss an appropriation of $10,000 to recruitment and processing account to cover additional costs for FY23.
So, oh, need a motion. So-
Yeah,
Oh, just as discussed. I didn't say.
Well, actually, I think we need a motion, yeah, because we're
Yeah.
talking about an appropriation, so.
Okay. I'll make a motion to recommend to council to appropriate $10,000 to recruitment and processing account as stated here to cover additional costs for FY 2023.
Okay,
Second.
okay, Mr. Manager, or Karen, or whoever?
I think I'll defer to Ms. Harnois on this one.
Okay.
She discussed this with me. I'm familiar with it, but she can articulate that.
This agenda item and then the one afterwards, the next one, when we were reconciling and putting together the tax recap, there was some additional state aid in the unrestricted governmental aid, and there was some reduction in the cherry sheet charges, where we have $210,000 that we can appropriate. And I'll let Adriana speak on this if she wants to. But there has been with all the vacancies and the turnover, she came to me and said, I need an additional $10,000 for recruitment and processing that will hopefully bring me through the end of the fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
And if through you,
Please,
Mr. Chair, and that is to cover not only the recruiting costs, but all the onboarding, so all the medical examinations, the drug testing, and that's pretty expensive. I know the firefighters asked to appropriate for the 4 firefighters, but everyone prior to that, we were paying for that, and we just ran out of funds.
Right.
Because of the cost of the physicals and drug testing. And then we've had to place numerous job ads for the same position. And although we do use a lot of the free job boards, some of them, like the treasure collector, for instance, have been open for more than 7 months, and they're only good for 30 days. So we have to, through the MMA, for example, that's where all the treasure collectors go and look for jobs. It's about, $100, $150 per ad, so it adds up.
Right, that makes sense, unfortunately.
Yes, I do too.
Sure.
I just sent Hannah the presentation for materials for Monday, and that is including this, accounting for this funds being raised.
Okay.
So those numbers are reflected.
Cool. So just to clarify from what Karen said, that so we're not actually, because I was kind of unclear the way the agenda item came to us. So we're not actually seeking any more tax money. This is money we already have. That we just.
That is correct. The tax levy will remain the same as we projected back in May.
Okay. Any further questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Am I getting something wrong here, because I don't see any paperwork to go with this? It's just your appropriation of 10,000, where it's coming from, what accounts. We usually get something that says it's coming from this account, and then that account. It's for a reason, something with the paperwork. I got a spreadsheet here, but I don't know how this relates to this. I'm just asking what goes with. Am I missing something, or?
Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, this is similar to a budget appropriation like we do. So it's coming from taxation, but we're not raising any more. We had just estimated a little high when we did it in May. so we can put these items in and still be at the same tax levy as we estimated then, so it's not a transfer or anything.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? George, go ahead.
Just going back on that question, is it safe to say that that $200,000 could be considered over taxation to the people?
That's the next agenda?
Well, that's the next agenda.
That's the
Okay,
next agenda.
we'll get to that.
Okay.
Hold that thought. Let's see. Item number 9 is discussing appropriation of $200,000 for town facilities improvements for FY23. Can we have a motion at least to discuss it?
Motion. So moved.
Okay, okay. Okay, let's see, I'll start with George, since you already started.
So my question is, the $200,000 is coming from that account, I believe, or the tax levy that's been approved. But as we see, that tax levy is in excess by $200,000, so we're able to use it because it's been accounted for.
Mhm.
It just, is it over taxation? It's no different than the state is giving back to the taxpayers a couple $1 billion of over taxation. Ours isn't as great, but I mean, we're so concerned about taxation. Why don't they take stabilization money, capital money, and relieve some of the taxes to the people? I guess that's all, you know.
Okay. Mike, I saw your hand up. Anybody else want to comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I have a similar question. The agenda is discussing appropriation of $200,000, but again, where is this $200,000 coming from? Was my question. The previous one you answered, and is it the same answer? For
Mhm.
this one, it's
Yeah.
coming out of taxes. So, and it's going for a town facility improvements. So is that an account that we have? Or I thought we were doing a capital planning committee. We were planning for things like that. And are you passing it, or this one's a little confusing to me, I guess.
Karen?
So Mr. If I could, then I'll turn it over to the town manager. So I brought this to the attention of the town manager and the assistant town manager, and we discussed it. I know that there's been a lot of concern, especially about the town hall, about doing capital improvements with the town hall. So when we discussed it, we thought it would be a good idea to set aside some funds to do some capital improvements. And that's the recommendation that the three of us came up with, but we didn't want to bring it to subcommittee just to see if, that's what the council would want to approve of.
Okay. Scott?
I'm on board with the facilities. Councilor Joe Dow educated me on the waterfall in the council chamber, which needs a repair and some work. My question is, there was monies appropriated back a few years for a repair, 30,000, whatever it was. Then there was other monies I know Councilor Fontigny mentioned. Can you explain to me, I mean, if we're taking $200,000, it's not the $200,000 that bothers me. It's, I would earmark it right to the town hall, the facilities. My point was, what happened to the other money that's floating in the projects? That wasn't used.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So right now, we have a capital planning and facilities committee meeting. Councilor Marquette's one of the members, and we are discussing that right now. Those still remain in the capital accounts. There hasn't been any recommendations as to what to do with them until something kind of comes up, and they won't be closed. They'll stay there until we find a good use for those funds.
But one of them was earmarked 30,000 for the roof.
Correct.
If this $200,000 goes over, I really think the roof is like a top priority.
Yeah.
Save the rest of the building, walls and structures, because the minute roofs leak, structures get damaged, then you're talking big expenses. So why didn't we take all that money and put it into facilities? The money that's hanging, as we say, dust out the accounts, why didn't we dust out the accounts, put it towards the facilities, and whatever the differential is, might be 60, 80,000 or something like that, then take that out of the taxation. Is there a reason why we're doing it the way we're doing it?
Well, and we're considering that as part of the committee, but we don't really have a quote as to how much it's gonna cost, you know, to do any of the roof. And that's what we can do afterwards, we could transfer it into one account, or we could transfer it into an account like this. We just thought that this would be a good suggestion and use of the funds, because obviously it's probably not gonna cost us $30,000 to, but maybe we could patch the roof with that, I'm not even sure that we could.
So do we have, this facilities account is just for any facility? The 200,000?
It could be, or the council could earmark it for a certain
So
facility.
this is
I just kind of
work
left
in
it
progress.
kind of general, so that if something else were to come up, that we could potentially use this fund.
Thank you.
Okay. Any thoughts on that one?
Council.
Okay.
Well, I met my
Okay, actually,
here.
I'm sorry, you did too. So you,
Okay.
then you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Correct.
There
Joe
was
was
another 35 for the window too. For the window to be replaced 2013 or 15, I'm not sure when we did the budget. Why wouldn't use the money from the building we sell on Main Street, on High Street over there? Why wouldn't use that money? They discussed this to take some money from there and use it.
We talked about putting that aside specifically for that purpose, yes. A couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. Anybody want to respond to that specifically?
That money is set in an account for the real estate proceeds for purchase of land and buildings. I want to say the 1.1 from the wells. I don't know the exact name of the account. This could. So when we did the recap, essentially a reconciling of where we were with our expenses and our revenues. And so when the dust settled, we got some unexpected increases in unrestricted general government aid. We had some changes in charter school reimbursements. And the delta is we have $210,000 that, that we could use. The comment was made, could you give it back to the taxpayers? You could do that. You could do a variety of things, but we have needs as well. So there was the question about the 10,000, which was made. So the thought process was there's been a lot of requests for improvements to facilities, repairing here. We discussed would we put this in the capital stabilization or what. We just wanted to see if the council had the appetite to take this 200,000 and use it for facilities improvements. We didn't have a specific project in mind. I think that's the best way to explain the conversation we had. You know, we realized that based on the recap, there's this money sitting here. So we want to find out what the council would like to do, and we're making a recommendation.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Denise, then George,
John,
then
I'm going
Scott,
to
then
the
Mike.
next one.
Okay, Denise.
Thank
You
you.
too? Okay.
So, I've always been a big supporter of a lot of things that the town wants to do, but I don't like the way this has come forward. My problem is you've taken what generally facilities improvements and such, which are usually in a capital budget meeting, and we discuss everybody's want, you know, this school needs this, the fire station or the police station or everybody needs, the DPW needs a furnace, everybody needs something, and it usually comes under the capital budget with and how much money do we have to spend and all that. What bothers me is that I see this, there was a shortfall, great, I mean you had all this wonderful extra money. And now it's just gonna be dumped into town facilities improvements, which we know there are many because we see the capital budget plan, for the 6-year plan or 5 years, however many years we're doing it now, and what needs to get done. So it's good to have a dump of funds, but it's not in the process that it has been historically done. So I have a hard time with what's being explained here. It seems a bit vague. We found this money, we're gonna put it in a town facility improvement. We don't really know what we're gonna do with it. There's a lot to be done with it, which we do know that because we've seen it in capital budget papers for as long as I've ever looked at them. So I know there's a lot that never got done, still needs to be done, all that. I just think it's a weird process bringing it in like this, maybe there's a discussion before it was coming up as a recommendation to count. I don't know, it just seems, that's all. I think there's a lot that needs to be done with $200,000, and the taxpayers have to pay one way or the other. I get it, we have to keep up our buildings, we have to keep up our community, our streets, the roads, and that's where I thought the money from Wells was going to, for the roads. If we just make the utilities pay for all the roads that they're digging up nonstop. Not Newco, by the way, y'all blame Newco. Newco did a great job on our street. They were very nice to us about moving a rock. But the problem is they're taking direction from the utility companies.
Right.
So if they're doing the work, it's because they're being told to. Just saying, that's a whole nother DPW. But anyway, the point being, so I just feel that this is weird. It's weird, but I mean, it's gonna be up to council regardless of what you guys decide to do with it. Just odd. I don't know how to describe it. Sitting here is feeling this oddness about how this is being done. I'm glad we got some extra money somewhere, and it's kind of like when Karen tells us, well, we have all this money for capital improvement. Here we have suddenly $200,000 for capital improvement.
Okay.
But we don't have that big list of all. What about the list of things that had to be done? Where's that list? Why is that not here? Why do we not have the stuff that's on schedule for 20, 22, 23, 21 that never got done, or 20 that never got done, and 24 that is potential to be done? How come we don't have that along with this? Because isn't that kind of what it is? Isn't that kind of capital fund what this is? I mean, to fix capital facility, to fix facilities, isn't that similar? So I guess maybe that's what's missing, is where's the stuff that needs to get done so we could say, oh yeah, the windows or the roof or the rugs or something. I don't know. To just say we're going to dump it.
So are you suggesting that we would,
I
it
don't
would make
know.
more sense to specifically designate it for something?
I don't have a problem with it. I just feel like we didn't have anything saying, oh, what are we going to do with some of this money? Like we usually do. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how else to describe it.
Okay, Mr. Manager? if you had any-
I don't
to that?
think
process.
there's anything nefarious or underhanded here, other
No.
than that, we had a change in the amount of, as I said, expenses and revenues, and the Delta had this money. I don't think we were proposing any particular project. We were just trying to find a placeholder as where to put these funds and throw out a suggestion. So, it's up to the council at the end of the day. You guys, suppose you could, reduce the tax rate, you could do a lot of different things. We're just brainstorming. We weren't coming forward to do anything. We're just trying to find out what you would like us to do with this difference in the amount we have.
Mhm.
So are you suggesting, are you suggesting that it gets dumped into this facilities improvement account, and then you're planning, when you do go to spend it, then you're bringing up the stuff you want to spend it on? Is that what's happening? Versus a capital discussion with the various things it could go to, and that's where it's going to.
I was
Okay.
confronted with this dilemma last week when we found this out from the tax recap,
Mhm.
and so we tried to come up with an idea of what we thought was the greatest need based on what we had heard.
Right.
So we said, maybe we should earmark this for facilities improvements. That's all this was.
Right.
Okay.
No, and I know there are, but without having like say, Councilor Riss, for instance, she's not been here through a capital budget process, right? Wait, yeah, right.
Nope.
Just kidding. I'm trying to think of the timing. So she's not seen that, maybe, unless she's gotten a copy from somewhere. So she doesn't even, she doesn't even understand that process. We have processes in place to spending the money generally. Even when it's for facilities improvement, there's a process, there's a list, and what facilities need it the most, and which one should we skip over, and that's all. I'm just saying, it just feels like we didn't, that's not been added with this, and I wish it could be or should be, or if this, I don't know what to say. It's $200,000 that I think needs to go to facilities. I don't disagree. I just feel like the process is a little weird, so.
Okay. Jasmine? Who's I haven't heard? We
There's
haven't
no
heard from you
accountability.
yet, so. I did see the rest of the list, but she hasn't spoken yet. so
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
know her time.
So, I mean, I don't think it's weird. I think that they were responding to sort of what we had brought up in a council meeting. But I do think, I am interested in the idea that George brought up about returning the money to taxpayers. I think that is something to explore. And, I do think that maybe we should allow the capital improvement committee to sort of hash out, what those expenses will be at that time, and get information about what it would look like to maybe give some money back to taxpayers.
Did crunch the numbers with and without doing this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Harnois can add to this discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
If this is not recommended and not voted by the council, then there'll be $200,000 more in revenue than in appropriated expenses, so it will reduce the tax levy.
There you go.
Okay.
So if that's what the council wants to do, that's what'll happen. But we have to decide that, and it has to be done on Monday at the council meeting. Either we vote this, or we let it go and reduce the tax levy.
Okay, thank you.
You sure?
How much will it reduce?
Yeah, right, what's?
Yeah.
Huh?
Rachel could probably answer when
I
she
think- I
comes
think
back.
I think that's what she's going to
We could ask
do.
her if maybe she
Right.
has any thoughts about how much 200,000 would be,
Right.
you know, yeah, on the tax rate.
Okay. Okay, we've got a whole bunch of people have signed up here. Let me catch up where we are. Okay, I've got Scott, Mike, Joe Dow, and George all in the list.
When the
So,
discussion started, I was thinking that this $200,000 was something that was laying around, that we could utilize for something. In looking at what it is, it's an overtaxation, not needed. So automatically, if I had to go back to 1980s when we would turn around and have a surplus of some sort, when we sold wells, we put it in the capital account. To me, it wasn't for purchasing land, it wasn't for the fire department, it wasn't for the police station. It was put there so the committee could decide which projects.
right.
I mean, at first, there was a big push for roads and sidewalks, and I know Councilor Dow put a push on for the town hall, and then as we learned, we have a waterfall upstairs, we said, wow, this is like real important compared to everything else.
Right.
So, going forward, we have put money in the, different revolving accounts. We are in good shape financially. I tip my hat to the finance department. And this is one of those times that I could hear Florence Chandler in my right ear telling me the $200,000 belongs to the taxpayers. We're doing all our projects and getting it done, give it back and levy the taxes and bring them down. That's where I'm coming from as a council now that we've had a healthy discussion. But I think I agreed with Councilor Clements, it was weird. The way it was coming about, I kept saying, well, what account is this coming out of? Well, it's not coming out of like an account transfer like we usually do. So for myself as a councilor, I know the town hall needs, we have the money put in accounts for the repair. Plus we have the capital account to go back into just in case it's more expensive than we thought.
Right.
But in that spirit, we also talked to the Peg Dean to say, the town hall needs more than a Band-Aid. We can put the Band-Aid on, fix the roof, but as Councilor Dow said, there's extensive work that has to happen to the, and here comes the question. She said she can get a grant to work on it, a 50-50 grant or something like that. They're out there where we get an architect or an engineer to actually put it in documentation on what has to happen to the town hall. And in a future meeting, you would deal with the project, whether it's an override, a bonding, or if it's small enough for capital account. So I think moving forward, I think that it's up to the subcommittee to recommend, but I know that when it gets to the floor, I would be very interested in giving the 200 back to the people.
Okay. Okay, let's see here. Mike Marchetti, then Joe, then George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to you. I would suggest to put the money into the capital stabilization account. Because we know the town hall needs to be fixed. There's no way around it. We're going to have to do it eventually. The capital stabilization account is where we're looking for funds so that we can fix facilities. I think this coming year, we should concentrate on fixing facilities. The last several years, we've been doing nothing but buying vehicles. I think that we have to put a pause on the work on fixing this town hall and many of the schools in town as we saw it. So my recommendation would be to put that funds in the capital stabilization account. Thank you.
Okay. Rachel, did you
So I
have
had,
numbers?
because I was aware they were gonna
Okay.
present this tonight, so I did take and calculate if we were to put the money towards reducing the tax rate.
Okay.
We're looking at about 14 cents per thousand savings for the taxpayer. if we did that instead of putting it towards facilities.
14 cents
Per
per
thousand.
thousand.
And we're at what rate right now?
It was not enough to.
17.
Well, 1790 is our current tax rate, but I don't know if I could really announce
So
yet.
the reval was last year? Did we do a revaluation last year?
Well, we do a reval every year, but
Yeah, but
the
it's
certification
yeah.
was
It's not gonna make
2 years ago.
Okay, so we're coming up to
But it could make a
Yeah.
difference to keep it building.
3 years later.
I just
I gotta look,
don't
22
think we need
yeah.
the list of what we need to do
Yeah.
to make a proper,
Mhm.
this committee to make a, informed.
Okay. Okay, going back to the list, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I don't believe give money back. The only reason, like, how much each resident is gonna get or payer is gonna get. So I think they will agree with me, I hope so. The town is falling apart. If we don't put money in it, the town hall, I mean, if we don't put money in it, they're gonna end up paying triple on the tax, on paying more. If you can come up with kind of commitment, saying those 200,000 will be put in the town hall to be repaired the roof, the brick falling out might kill somebody, the slide on the top alley, whatever, is falling apart too. It's a lot of things that need to be repaired. If you can come up with a commitment, those 200,000 will be spent in the town hall to be repaired, I'm on it. Thank you.
Is this town hall, if I may, on the historic register?
Yes.
Yes.
You're required to maintain those
Yes.
properties, and it does, we have a running into this issue in my hometown, our town hall, we can't afford to pay because it got let go first of all. This is a beautiful building,
Yeah.
I think to see this happen here.
Gonna be for too long.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, should we recommend that we put it specifically, designate the account specifically for town hall? George?
I fully understand that this bill needs money, the $200,000, 14 cents, as they said, on the $1,000. The problem that I have is the perception that it gives to the average Joe out here. I used for an example last night. You transferred money from the DPW building repair to do a repair somewhere else where it was, well, we don't need to do this repair no more. So they had money there. It seems like every time we have transfers and done, that we're finding this mysterious money that gives to the average person out there is that we're hiding money. Now, for me sitting here, that $200,000, I understand it's a combination of revenue and stuff like that, that wasn't anticipated. But it makes the average person, oh geez, maybe we can, next year, we can inflate the prices a little bit and get a little bit more money. Earmark the money for the repairs. There's money. You have a lot of money in stabilization and capital. A lot of money that you could repair that building. You could repair the building, stabilize the building. Use it. Keep putting it, just keep adding money in there, banking the money away. People are saying out there, geez, you're putting all this money away. It'll be just like the state, billions of dollars, and they're issuing $3 billion back to the taxpayers. That's all I'm saying. I know the building needs work. Earmark the $200,000 to a specific project. Get the project done now, sooner than later, instead of waiting and waiting and waiting. They've had roof repair money since I came out of the womb. 67 years ago, they've been talking about repairing this. So, I mean, it's time to do something, I think, and it's somebody's responsibility to do that, not just look at it. You know, it needs to get done now. The money's there. Earmark the $200,000. Get it done. Thank you.
Okay. I thought I saw Karen. Did you have something you wanted to add to it?
Oh, no, I think Councilor Daniel wanted.
Okay, John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I totally 100% agree with Councilor Dow. This grand old lady definitely needs work. Councilor Dow splashes over to the rest of us when he's taking his showers. There's more that needs to be done in terms of flooring, subflooring work, carpeting, electrical work, infrastructure in terms of computers and Wi-Fi setups. I know that when people were talking about generators being hooked up to this building to protect the building in the event of some sort of an emergency, there's fuse boxes everywhere throughout the building. No one knows exactly how large the service is or what the service should be. I think that it's going to run more than $200,000 to repair. Everything needs to be done over the course of time. And I think that that this is a good start to prepare for what's going to need to be done. So I agree 100% with Councilor Dow. Thank you.
So what's the committee's pleasure?
Well, I mean, the request was it go to a town facilities improvement. I think that the decision for where it goes is council, definitely council. You know, I granted, you two are council, I'm not at this point, usually at Martina here. I mean, we can make it,
We can make a recommendation where we want it to go.
I propose an amendment to recommend an appropriation of $200,000 for town hall improvements specifically.
Is there a second? I'll second.
Yeah, I just was thinking if that's the word I would have used, but that's fine. Second.
Okay. Okay, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. All I'm saying, all I've been trying to say here is that we have a capital planning committee. Why don't you let us do our job? That is our job to do planning, rather than put it into some separate account, put it in capital stabilization and let us work on this. Make this a capital project. I think I'm all on board. I think the town hall definitely needs work. But I think you should let us do our work on capital planning and put it in capital stabilization. Thank you.
Okay. Scott.
Creative financing. You're talking about a building that needs a lot of work. $200,000 is a drop in the bucket once you get an architect in here to do the job. You're talking about putting $200,000 in an account that you're not gonna, emergency appropriations or whatever. We have a capital improvement account right now that can fix the roof and do everything we need to preserve it till we get a bigger picture on what the expense is. Putting $200,000 aside and looking at an architect, by the time you contract the architect, you get him in, you're gonna be 3 years out. I'm just gonna ask to be about 3 years out before you really have to get the money to fix it. Salting it away is always going to capital improvement and you put it anyway. That's where it belongs. But the thing is, in these economic times, with the groceries, the gas, and everything that's going on, giving the people a little bit back, we're not, even if you put the money there, we're not gonna do the town hall job that should be done for at least 3 to 4 years. Some of us councils won't even be here. The capital account has the money to fix the roof. We have $30,000, 26 for the windows. Just what you already accumulated can put the Band-Aid on till an architect or engineer gets in here, assesses the roof. Does the whole roof have to be redone? Does the brick have to be repointed? How is the tower doing? What about the stained glass windows? Historical building, grants, Peg Dean, a lot of moving parts. This one time that we overtaxed, give the taxpayers a bite at the apple. That's why they hate government, because that's all we do is tax and spend. We never show like oh geez, we have a little bit to give back. Maybe that 14 cents per thousand or whatever it is, not gonna hinder him and I. You can have mine. But what about the little people in Southbridge that are out there trying to make ends meet? That's what I'm saying. The one time that the council can say, let's take care of the taxpayer a little bit, let's do this a little bit, let's help everything out. We can make it all happen. But putting money away right now is not gonna cure the problem. Peg Dean says, better off with a grant 50-50 match. If the money wasn't sitting in the capital improvement account to do the roof, in all the accounts that we have that we could dust out to do the roof, the money's all there. This one time I thought we overtaxed, it would only be the conscionable thing to do is to give the piece back to the actual taxpayer. And you know, it's up to the subcommittee to recommend, but think about it. People are suffering out there in Southbridge, and I just, maybe we're not, but I have to look out for the little guy.
That's a trick for you.
Okay.
So we give the people back a little bit.
Something with the 200,000.
So we make him smile and then we chop him down with treble tax again to bring back to fix the town.
No, the
We're
money
talking about
is
the
sitting in the
capital
account.
improvement and Council Marquette want to put them all in a row.
It's not
The
happening
money
next
is
week.
in the account to fix the town hall.
The town-
We're not going to the tax rate. That's what I'm saying, we're not going to tax rate. We're going to capital improvement to fix the roof. The money's already there.
Where? The one you guys gonna put it on a road?
No.
We need money.
No,
We need a lot of
the
money.
no, the
You
million-
guys don't do nothing in the
There's
past.
millions.
Hey,
It's all-
let's not have an
it's all
argument here.
Millions in the account. Millions, yeah. 1.2 just from wells.
That's what you can do only one road in 1.2.
That's not gonna be the road, that's, if you can use it for the capital improvement.
When
It
I
doesn't
recommend at the
matter.
beginning that money to go to the town hall, it was no, we're gonna put it on
You
a
can
road.
give it to
sidewalk.
wherever you
Hey.
want. They haven't voted what it goes to.
Not yet, that's true.
Right, and not yet.
We make the people confused. Okay, we're gonna give you $5 and then we'll nail you $20 later. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think most of the arguments we keep rehearing over and over
Okay.
again. Maureen, do you have anything new?
It's not new, but I wanted to summarize, I think George brought up a great point, that we have this money, and Councilor Rivas brought up a great point. Let's give the people something. People are struggling, and thank you, Councilor Lazo, for mentioning that. It's like, oh my God, I know 14 cents isn't gonna cover the postage, but on the $1,000, so. Math isn't my strong suit, so, but whatever it turns out to be. But something, I hear people all the time talking about how we're taxed to the hilt. Give them something back. And I'm so tired of squirreling things away for a later date, you know?
One more thing.
We already have the money.
Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on. Okay, we haven't heard from you yet, so go ahead.
Taxed to the hilt. Can I ask what the excess levy capacity is on this year's recap?
Karen?
Rachel, do you know what about, Rachel? Is it about 600?
Yeah.
That's what it was last year, it was 600.
No, it's actually like $1 million this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not taxing your taxpayers to the max?
Correct.
Okay? Because under 2.5, the town of Southbridge can actually tax you an additional $1 million. So I just want to be clear about that. You're doing a great job. These people are all doing a great job. They're not taxing you to the max. You have excess levy capacity to the tune of over $1 million, which is unheard of in these times in many other
It's
communities.
the highest I've seen in at least 5 years.
In many other communities, where do you live?
I live here, Scott.
I can't even
And I've lived here, I was born here, raised here, worked here, live here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, so do I, and the taxes are definitely going up.
I wish you guys would go to Big Bunny's and watch and see the elderly people and the poor people there buying animal food to survive on because they can't afford to live here. Go there and ask
I
the
go to
manager
Big
how many
Bunny
people
all
do
the
that.
time, George, and
Go ask.
I'm rating the vegetable, the used vegetable wrap all the time. I'm on the same boat.
Can I make a different point?
Who's the question?
Can I make a different point?
Please.
Thank you. So I just wanted, to the point where somebody said we've overtaxed, whatever, that's not how it was explained. We had extra monies given to our community, like many others, because of different things. You know, COVID times and the main government who taxes us to death, they're the ones giving back lots of money to us. So we didn't have as much costs. You know, we had a windfall here. You know, we just didn't have we're okay with all this. So you can't count on that being the same case next year and the year after and the year after. So I'm just saying, you know, when you look at the 14 cents and the potential for an extra $70 or $100 in your pocket down the road at the 14 cents, you can't just expect that next year we're going to get the same perks that we've gotten because of COVID and the way the government's been running. So I would be very cautious on saying that we're gonna have more money to fill our coffers. If we empty our coffers to fix the town hall, then what happens, you know? To the $1 million levy situation, absolutely true. I'm surprised the state lets us get away with us not taxing more than we're supposed, more as we should be according to them, just saying. I don't agree with it. I'd rather my taxes be lower too, but I'm
You
just.
can't afford it.
So, anyway, just the point is, we were given more, which is why we didn't need as much as we thought we did, because we were given a penny already.
Right.
So,
Karen,
savings
just to
accounts.
clarify, so,
Yes.
so this money is state money? This is not taxpayers. This is not.
What do you mean?
This is.
What I'm saying is-
This is
Don't
state. Is
change
this
my
state
words.
money?
That's not what I
If I'm
said.
trying to understand.
No, what I'm saying, when it was explained,
Yeah, let me try. Because my understanding, and Ms. Harnois could jump in and probably explain it better. You do the tax recap. We get charged charter school assessments and things, and we
Yeah.
get monies and reimbursements for
Yeah,
that.
I get that.
Some of those went down, but we also got an unanticipated increase in our unrestricted general government aid, even 100,000 more. So some of those things canceled out.
Yeah.
In the end, we did get some unexpected increases in state aid.
That's what-
That was part of it.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's part of the overall
That's what I'm
thing. There
thinking,
may be some other minor changes that affected it, but part of it was that increase in what's called UGGA.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought you were saying. Okay.
so to my point, you just can't expect that to be the case going forward either.
That's true.
It's just, so we raised a budget based on what the needs were for this community. That's what the council appropriated monies, and that's how you raised your taxes, and that's what there was, in the end, we had some extras that wasn't anticipated. That's why you had more,
Karen?
right?
So I would just like to say, I know what Councilor Marquetti has tried to say a couple of times. I think if the town council wants to appropriate the money for capital, appropriate the $200,000 to the capital stabilization fund. Because that's where the $1.2 million from the wells was transferred into. And then from there, it can be decided by the capital planning committee what to recommend to town council for the projects. And there will definitely, the council will have a say in where
Right.
that money, where the money goes.
Okay. Did you have something you wanted to say? No? Okay. It's okay, your hands up. Anybody else have comments? We've kind of beaten this to death several times.
Good debate, good debate.
Okay, so there is a motion currently on the floor that recommends sending it designated specifically for town hall.
I'm gonna remove my second. I move my second.
You did. Okay.
So if there's no second.
Okay, so at this point, there's no second. Okay, so then that means it's,
Still up for grabs.
Main motion.
okay, so
Back to
the
me.
main motion is discuss appropriating to town facilities improvements, which is a kind of a vague term, so do you want to amend that change to send it specifically to capital stabilization?
Yeah, I'll recommend an amendment to change it to appropriate the $200,000 to the capital stabilization account for FY20. Second.
Okay.
Listen to me, they listen to me.
Okay, any further comments on this?
Excuse us to get it out.
I have a question.
You're right, it's 2/3 out.
That is true.
Mr. Chair.
No, majority.
If I was done.
Yeah, wait a minute, change my mind.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question.
Yeah,
I'm gonna remove my motion, sorry.
Oh, okay.
okay.
I wasn't thinking about it. I wanted to ask that question after.
So what? You
The
want
thing is,
to
it's
do
meant to be that way, so.
I understand why it's like that, because.
I mean, if I was gonna put it anywhere, that's what I would do.
Wrong one.
But I just think it should go to the taxpayers.
It's
Well,
gonna be
it's
2/3
not.
no matter where you put it.
You still gotta go to council for it.
Right. Right, it's an appropriation situation. So
Okay,
you still
so-
have to decide to change it by 2/3 to do what you're gonna do anyway.
Absolutely, it's where it belongs.
Oh, you're such a jerk.
Okay, so, okay, what are we doing?
If you're gonna move the money, let's see how to move it to.
Okay, excuse me, Scott, okay, thank you. What are we doing?
Did you?
Are
I'm
you-
gonna
are you-
reinstate my motion. I'm gonna
So
leave it
you'll
as it
keep it,
is.
you'll leave it as it is, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not a counselor.
What was that again?
What
What
was
do
the
you-
motion?
It is, the motion is to take this 200K and put it into capital stabilization.
To recommend the council take the 200.
Well, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any further comments on this?
Don't even say
Okay, all those in favor?
All right, done.
Thank you.
I knew it wasn't going back to, it wasn't going back, though.
That would be easy, we just want a word removed, that's it.
Hope it's easy.
Unfortunately, the internet keeps kicking me off, and that's what I'm using for this. Okay, item number 10 is discuss amending the town council, the town of Southbridge employee personnel rules and regulations, section 6. Okay, this honestly, this agenda item, I don't understand this, so can we have some explanation for this?
Do you want me to talk?
Whoever wants to, whoever can answer this.
Can I have it?
What's that again?
Can I have what they have?
Go ahead,
I would like
Jack.
to.
Get here by 9.
We'll try and make
This
it.
meeting is being recorded?
Yes, it is. Karen, go ahead.
Okay, so in the personnel rules and regulations, in this section 6, under retirement dental insurance, it currently reads similar to the town does not offer insurance to retirees.
Done.
I'm sorry, dental insurance to retirees. Now, the retirement board has been discussing, along with the town, that we would like to offer the retirees a dental benefit. So
Okay.
this is to change the language saying the town offers insurance to retirees with no premium contribution by the town. It's fully retiree funded.
That's it.
Okay. Denise.
Right. Future, please put as it exists and as you want it to be. You know, it's very important,
That would be-
because I read it
I
3
didn't
times
understand
going,
that.
what is, I realize you're trying to change something, but from what? Because it wasn't
Exactly. I didn't
clear.
understand that
So
either.
please make sure that agenda items are, you know, specific, and especially when you're changing something like this, because we don't have, well, I don't have the whole document
I
in
don't
front of
either.
me.
Yeah, I don't either.
Right, so unless something,
That
so
was-
that's
that
all,
was
but
not-
if that's
No.
something, you know. So,
Yeah, that was not.
So that will be changed for the town council meeting.
Okay.
yeah, if you could make sure
The
the
existing-
counselors know what they're going from and to, so that they understand that concept, right?
Right.
Even a backup whatever, the backup document where it currently reads,
Yeah,
right?
it's not in the package.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
that would be fine.
good to know. Okay,
So moved to recommend to the council the change that's
Okay.
being recommended.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further comments on this? All those in favor? Okay. And I think we are at discuss potential for creation of a forest management revolving fund, which is something we had on the last agenda. Unfortunately, Steve Gregoire is not here. Mr. Manager, I think the last time we had asked you to bring us back some possible language. Or maybe Karen. Yeah, I wanted to see where that's at. Huh? Karen? Good.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't part of any of the discussion on this, but I did speak with Steve Gregoire from the Water Department today. I just wanted to let you know that he doesn't have any additional information on this at this time, but I sent an email to our Department of Revenue rep today, because I never really heard of doing a special revenue fund or a special, or a revolving fund that has to do with enterprise funds. So she recommended that we would have to get in touch with legal. And Steve Gregoire also said that, you know, if it becomes an issue with that, and I think Council Marquetti had recommended, if we need an appropriation, we'll just appropriate from, you know, from the revenue that we receive for this purpose, as if it's in the same year. I don't feel that we really need a revolving fund for forest management expenses.
Okay. Any thoughts?
Have you ever heard of any? No, man,
Want to postpone or?
Yeah, why don't we, so I thought it was to be totally earmarked directly for that.
I think that was the
That was the
basic
point,
intent.
was to say that it was,
It was to create a revolving fund so that the money that they get back from forestry can be put into this fund so that they can do invasive removal and, you know, the kind of constant ongoing,
rather than it be an
issues.
unknown, they would be a known. They would know they had funds to be.
they would constantly use that fund, yes, as opposed to having to get specific earmarked funding from the council directly.
Right.
Yes, yes, that was the intent. As it is now, these funds would go straight to the town general fund.
Right.
Mr. Chair, that's not correct.
It is.
It would go into the water enterprise fund.
You mean what we're talking about, that this revolving fund would go straight to the water enterprise fund, or any money they're making goes straight to the water enterprise fund?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
It's
So
not the
the
general
sale of the
Timber.
harvesting in the watershed property goes into the water enterprise fund.
Oh, okay.
So then the appropriation for anything for this invasive plant removal would then be appropriated from the water enterprise fund.
Oh, okay.
Right, but it still has to come from council, right?
And you're right, and it would still have to go to council. So, you had said a minute ago that you don't think, it runs into a whole bunch of legal issues by doing this because you've never seen an enterprise fund have a revolving fund attached to it.
Never seen a revolving fund for an enterprise.
There's no.
What's that, Pam?
But we've never seen a revolving fund for an enterprise fund, related to an enterprise fund. Only
Interesting.
now.
Okay.
Well, what if we postpone and ask him why he felt that this, maybe we should just have one more discussion with him
Yeah,
before.
I
And
would
if there's
just
something
postpone
else,
it.
some other concept that he would propose, then, or that it's not
I think,
necessary.
I was actually a discussion that Steve and I had when we were out on a site visit with Maureen, Conservation. And we were just throwing the idea, he said he had these issues and he was wondering if it was possible to do.
Okay.
And wanted to see if it would be just a way to have a dedicated fund for doing these kinds of invasive removal issues. To prevent it from becoming a major issue down the road, basically. Because he's noted that they're starting to see some of them popping up. It's not a major issue yet, but he wants to prevent it from becoming one.
Right.
Scott, you had that?
Yeah, I agree with the finance director. I don't see why we need a revolving account if it's a budgetary thing. All the harvesting that goes on with the wood goes into the water fund. If it's related to the watershed land, we could withdraw or budget through the budget. So for me, I understand the theory in a revolving account. I just don't think in this application that we would create one.
Okay. Okay. Thoughts? You still want to postpone it, or? What do you want to do?
Well, we're not doing much, I mean, this is just discuss it anyway, so we're not doing anything about it. I mean, we're not making a motion or vote on it at this point,
At the moment, that's true, because
So we can
don't
still
have
talk
fund-
about it
we don't
again if
actually
we
have
choose to
language,
down the
so-
road. Like, if we wanna bring Steve back and say, okay, so this is what, do a recap of what we were told, and then, just saying it's another discussion item for ourselves.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
We can do that,
To
too.
either put it to bed or to ask some other question of what can be done.
Okay.
Good?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Number 12 is to adjourn.
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor? The vote is 4-0.